Yo YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy J-Dog, back in the gaming hub, back on the grind, back on the game. And today we are playing Spider-Man PS4 and pairing it with a wonderful and in-depth discussion about the Spider-Man No Way Home movie that just released.
Oh yeah, guys, you heard it first from the gaming hub himself. Alright, this is gonna be a good one. This one's gonna be a doozy. The movie was fantastic. No pun
100%.
intended, but amazing. I mean, it was pretty great, guys. It's pretty great. I'd stay tuned into this video to the very end because we're gonna be touching on some key points. Okay? And guys, this this video is going to include spoilers. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, if you haven't seen the movie already, I'm going to give you to the count of 5 to click off this video. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is your last chance. You better go ahead and do it. And 5. Alright, we are good to go. So, I mean, hey. So, like, how did you feel, you know, just whenever you heard the movie was going to first, like, come out? Like, how did you feel?
Well, honestly, it got me a little off guard because I remember. I remember all the way back to when Far From Home was just a rumor. So honestly, it's been a wild ride. And then we got the No Way Home rumor, and I was like, I didn't know what it was gonna be about. I was like, is it just gonna be like another Spider-Man movie? Like, what was really going on? And I was pleasantly surprised to be proven wrong with this next movie that just came out.
Yeah, I mean, dude, it was anything but another like just another Spider-Man movie, dude. Honestly, dude, it's a big statement, but I think it's the best Spider-Man movie of all time.
While that's obviously a debatable subject, I can definitely agree that it is 100% in the running for at least top three, if not number one.
Yes, dude, the movie was absolutely ridiculous. Man, the day of the movie just got a lot of excitement, you know, dude. You ever get really excited about something, dude, the night before or whatnot, dude, and it's just like, you can't sleep. You just wanted to be here already, you know? Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
get that feeling with this?
Honestly, like
Dude, because
like
I mean, go ahead.
yeah, like the week leading up to it, like I was excited, but it was kind of like I was excited like any other movie. It wasn't until like the day of that like I felt this whole new rush of excitement because it was like yeah, every other day was like I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. But then the day of I was like, oh my god, it's finally here. Like I'm getting anxious, just seeing what the movie has to offer, seeing what it's gonna bring.
Most definitely, dude. Most definitely. Um, man, dude, did it live up to expectations? Dude, it exceeded
Oh, it
expectations.
absolutely it exceeded all the expectations. I mean, from what I've heard from all the critics and the reviews coming in, I don't think anybody was in the least disappointed.
Dude, the movie was just phenomenal, bro. But I mean, we're just gonna get this thing started off. We're gonna be talking about we're just gonna be talking about our main villains here. So like Doc Ock, dude, you got the scene where he comes in like busting through the bridge with his arms and everything like that. Like, what did you think about that? Like, whenever he first like came in. I mean, of course we seen it in the trailers, but like in the movie, was there like, how'd you feel?
Honestly, I think that not only did he do a great job playing his villain, but I feel like he was the pioneer in like starting all the hype for the movie, especially the villains. I feel like he did a great job of just like grabbing the attention and being like, "Whoa, what's happening? Like, what's going on with the movie? I want to see more."
Exactly, exactly. I never said it better, dude. Honestly, the whole roller coaster of emotions that
Oh, absolutely.
The actor himself, I mean, I've never seen him I don't think I've ever seen him at least in any movies except for the Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
But man, dude, he did some great acting. Like, I don't know how you can make someone feel like, okay, so you're supposed to be a big bad villain and everything, like a crazy like scientist, but like you somehow can make people feel like a whole bunch of like sympathy for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that
Um,
comes from his, just his, just his character.
yeah, that is true. That is true.
Hmm.
I can see where you say that. Um, right. And then I mean, dude, we got the freaking Sandman
Oh,
in the mix over here, bro. Dude, I mean, what do you gotta say about that, bro? I mean,
I, I,
he's just the guy that wants to go home to his daughter, bro.
I had mixed feelings about him because don't get me wrong, I love seeing, and it was the original actor too, which is awesome. They brought him back, played the same role, basically had him in the same shoes. He's just a loving father, caught up in some wrongdoings, just wanted to see his daughter, and whatnot. I gotta say, it was a little weird seeing the way that they played his character out because he had some morality to him, but I feel like that quickly went out the window. I feel like he just was I feel like he kind of got lost in everything, and I feel like just to build up like the tension towards Peter Parker and like getting him some like what am I gonna do? I feel like they just made him a villain kind of without really explaining it.
Well, I mean, this is something. I mean, the whole scene with him and Jamie Foxx. I mean, you could see it coming though, because the thing with Sandman is he didn't really trust anyone to begin with.
Mhm.
He even said in here, like, I don't trust anybody. He didn't let Peter do anything, bro, because he was like, I don't know you. As soon as he found out that he was like a different Peter Parker, his whole attitude changed. Because at the start, he thought he was just the normal Peter Parker that he knew, the Tobey Maguire Peter Parker.
Mhm.
But then as soon as he found out, hey, wait, you're not. What's going on here? Like, you're not my Peter Parker that I'm talking about. Like, you're not the one that I know. His whole attitude towards him changed. So I
Well,
mean,
and I understand that, but even if you go back to his own, if you go back to the original movie too, he didn't really trust Peter in that movie, but I think also because of like the whole story with that. I mean, I'm not gonna get into it like all of it, but just with everything that happened, like Peter didn't really come at him in a positive light, but Sandman wasn't immediately like, oh, I hate you. He was kind of like, well, who are you? Like, you don't even really matter. And so, but in the end, he ended up like being able to make peace with him. And so I just feel like that he should have had more conflict. I feel like he shouldn't have just been like, oh well, I don't know you, so I'm just gonna like go ahead and gang up on you. But
well,
I've
no, I mean, the way they did it wasn't even like that though. I mean, because I mean, he had Jamie Foxx like, or Electro. He had Electro over here like, basically relating to him.
mm-hmm,
They were both like being very relatable to each other. It's like, oh, well, I was in this situation. Like, oh, well, I fell in a thing of views, and this is how I got mine. And he's like, oh, well, I fell into that sand pit or whatnot. I don't know the exact name they used for it, but like,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, you get the idea of what it is. And yeah, then they just kind of had that one line joke that was just like, yeah, hey, next time watch where you fall.
Jay must emit a signal I can detect.
And I mean, it was a very
Just need to swing
relatable.
through
And I
the
mean,
financial
it
district
kind of
and hunt for a signal.
it humanized him because I mean, basically throughout the movie,
Found a signal.
Jamie
Just need to
Foxx
follow it.
other than that scene, Jamie Foxx is literally looked at as basically a killer and like a monster, like or the Electro. He's basically just looked at as like a monster.
I
But then
I
you got that, it's kind of like
I honestly
good.
I have mixed feelings about him because I feel like his character conflicts because I feel like part of his character is like you know I have all this great power because, you know, at one point I didn't, and I felt like a nobody, and so now that I have this power, you know, I just want to be somebody. But, like, he also, he doesn't really make it the easiest to feel for him in some light. So it's kind of hard for me to be like, oh, well, is he a villain or is he just a guy who got caught up in, you know, all this other stuff?
I do get that, and it's because of his greediness. He wants, it's like, he has a little taste of that power. He just wants more. He doesn't settle for it. He's just like, oh no, I want more power. Like, he needs more power. And then he's gonna do whatever it takes for him to get more electricity and more power so like he can like reach his full potential.
Gotta take out the
Oh,
jammer.
absolutely. And I mean, you know, I can't say I've ever been in a situation that dire, but, you know, I can understand, you know, he says, you know, at one point, you know, I was a nobody. I felt like I had nothing. I felt like everybody looked down on me.
That do anything?
And so when he got a taste of the power, he was automatically defensive when it was threatened.
Track him down.
Well, not really threatened as much, but like there was a possibility of it being taken away.
The system going
And, you know, I can definitely understand.
Threatened was the correct term because
Well, he wasn't immediately like threatened, but it was.
like, no, but I mean, Tom Holland didn't even ask any questions, bro. He was just like, here, I'll fix you. And that was the thing, like, he thought he was fixed. He felt like he was fixed. He felt like he was whole, and like, he didn't feel like he was wrong. He felt like he was like complete, you know? Because he had that power or something that he's never had, and it made him have like a sense of this is me, it's a part of me. Like, you know?
Yeah, I can understand that. I think to me the ultimate, you know, thing that it was kind of throwing me off was his confliction. Like, I think his character just kind of conflicted with himself in the way that they portrayed him, and his emotions going back and forth. But, you know, it's,
Overall, though, I really like the way they play him out. I really do. Because I mean, it's like any group. I mean, you have a group of people. You're gonna have some that do agree, and then you're gonna have some that's like, you know, kind of in the middle. It's like, you know, like I don't know, like if it's like a decision or whatnot. And then you got some people that's just gonna go against that.
Just need to get
Mhm.
the jammer.
So I liked it in the sense that, you know,
Gotta smash the jammer.
Still.
This is all for nothing.
went really good with the whole plot. And then
Sometimes breaking stuff is the answer. And
this
it's
is
fun
probably
too.
gonna be something like very controversial throughout all the talks and everything that anybody's really ever gonna hear is what about the Wizard Dude? Like, how
Fisk was the kingpin of crime, but he didn't deal in knockoff fashion.
I really don't think he contributed at all. Really, I mean, looking at it, I honestly they kind of.
Jammer left.
I mean, to me, it literally looks like they took the three main villains, like they took villains out of both series and just put them in there as sort of like, hey, we're bringing in new villains for this Peter Parker to see and whatnot. And I feel like all of them were trying to like have their own story, and Lizard just was kind of like a filler one, like just there to like add tension to Tom Holland and you know, give him like another bad guy to fight. I don't feel like he really contributed much to like anything, especially because
I do feel the same way because of the fact that while everything in that whole complex was going on, like whenever Green Goblin turned on everybody, and whenever I guess Electro and Sandman like followed behind and everything like that, and they kind of like, you know, just went out and tried to like basically kill Doc Ock.
Now I just need to get the jammer.
During that time, I mean, dude, you shot Lizard like, you just got him in the back of a feast van
Okay, that's the last of them.
over
System should
here,
be back
just
online.
like, oh, well, it's about time. Because I mean, he wasn't with all of that to begin with.
Any more info
I
on
mean,
Fisk's
he
men or
was
those outfits?
Just sitting there at the start, just like in the cell, just like, I'm not going with y'all, like, I'm not trying to
I'll check it out.
have my power taken away from
Gotta
me.
get to the
But
docks
Mhm.
before they
basically,
escape.
the Lizard's whole thing was he was trying to perfect humanity, and he thought that he could do that through turning everyone into a lizard.
Well, and see, I think the biggest problem for me was just the fact that he had character, but he didn't have personality. Like the other villains, like yeah, they kind of like even with the lizard, like the whole perfect humanity. Like I like, but that was his exact same like thing going from like the Amazing Spider-Man movie, and like the other villains, like some of the other villains, they had the same like
Guns.
they had the same routine in this movie that they did in their own movies. Like they had the same motive, but they did it differently. You know, they acknowledged everything that was going on and they adapted. Versus, I think the lizard just kind of was like did the same monotone.
But I mean, really, if you think about it, what are you gonna do with the lizard?
I mean, at least have him like maybe team up, or maybe have some maybe you know something crazy. Maybe he like gets thrown out for a while and has some like revelation, or maybe he becomes a good guy, or just just something to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. But I feel like, I mean, he fit the hype, dude. He fit the hype. He was the least hyped out of all of them. Everybody didn't know if it was gonna be the lizard or if he was actually Venom. You know, so a lot of people were saying that, oh, that could be Venom.
Hmm.
And he was the least hyped, and I feel like he was definitely the least unique.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, dude,
Well, maybe I
with
can
the
figure
big
out what's
fight
going
and
on.
everything, bro, he just kept getting kicked in the face. I mean, dude, you heard me throughout the movie sitting there saying,
Guns.
he's just gonna get
Prison
the
guard
crap
uniforms.
Mhm.
Deep dive deep.
every Spider-Man,
Planning to
dude.
bust Fisk out of the
Coming out
raft.
of, swinging out of nowhere, kicking the crap out of him in the face.
Well,
And
and yeah.
he didn't do much for the
Sorry
fight.
to spoil your prison break, guys.
Basically, I feel like he was just there to try to get about it. So that the real, like, the main people could do their thing,
Well, and I don't even mind that, honestly. Like, I feel like you do need characters like that, to keep everything going and to have moving parts. But, I think with everything else that was going on, you know, either they could have done something more with him, or they could have left him out entirely. You know?
Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, it kind of does make sense. The fact that you're bringing two villains, two really, let's just say this, two really great villains, by the way, from Tobey Maguire's series or trilogy into, well, it wouldn't be right if they only added one villain
Mm-hmm.
from Andrew Garfield's series,
Well, yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't fit right, I mean, they honestly, they could have did it. I mean, that way people would have prepared for Sinister Six. And then, like what happened.
I have no
get
idea what you're
disappointed
talking
because,
about.
I mean,
Now, if
there
you'll
was no
excuse me, I
Sinister
have to
Six
delete my
from five.
selfies from the crime system servers.
But then, we'll talk about it later, post-credit scene. That happened. So then, you just be kind of wondering, like, but then again, everybody was cured and all that. So I don't know, dude, there's a whole bunch of ways to go. But,
Well, speaking of,
go ahead.
well, yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of, there's one guy we hadn't touched on that I think had probably debatably the biggest impact out of all the villains.
Dude, he made the movie.
Absolutely.
He made the movie.
And we were talking about none other than
Buddy, we are talking about the
the Green.
2012 Green Camaro that's sitting outside.
Well, it's the same name.
We're talking about dude, William Defoe, Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin.
Which sometimes movies can do this thing where they have multiple stories going on and it's hard to balance them, and they're like conflicting and they're juggling. But to me, like I feel like,
Great with him.
oh, absolutely, I feel like he had his own storyline that was kind of separate from everything else, and it just integrated so well with everything. Like
Yeah.
like they just had the moving pieces that kept going, and you're like, okay, this is happening. You know what's happening over here, and then they just tie it all together.
Yeah. His whole plot, dude, his whole storyline was just marvelous, bro. No pun intended, because it is a Marvel movie. But, dude, it was, dude, you couldn't ask for anything better, bro.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, first, let's just start with his entrance. I mean, he came out like they could have started him slow. They could have had him like build up to something. They had him straight out of the gate, coming after Peter on the bridge. Just, I mean, and in full gear. Like, he had the original costume, probably updated a little bit, to fit the character or whatnot. But they had the same costume design basically. They had the same glider. They had the laugh that you had, like the goblin
Yep.
bombs. I mean,
Yep.
very explosive entrance to say the least.
Oh, yeah, dude. Most definitely, bro. You can't really, and I mean, the thing is, bro, honestly, I don't even think he's going mainly after Peter on that bridge, dude, because remember, dude, Doc Ock was there, too,
Well, I say
but,
Peter because he's like the protagonist, but yeah, I agree with you. He's probably just going after
yeah,
everybody, and
I mean, the thing is, he didn't care who was collateral, so,
mm,
um, but bro, dude, and this movie, dude, it really just opens to your eyes to how much of a psychopath the Green Goblin the character actually is, bro.
oh yeah,
Like his whole mental thing with his split personalities, bro. It's just crazy, dude.
yeah, and you know what? Something I always thought could have been better in the first Spider-Man movie was, we had the Green Goblin, and you saw him have this huge like mental episode, and you kind of got this like goblin voice in his head, but it felt more like some like maybe like a hallucination or something. But in this movie, when they finally brought him back, it was like a whole new depth of like
Yeah,
psychopathy. Like it was his own like you said, like a split personality almost that kind of like takes over. And like the
it's
way,
literally like you get a 2-for-1 special in that happy meal, you know.
oh yeah,
You don't only get the
All this for
freaking
little old me?
Big Mac and fries, buddy. But you get the Big Mac, you get the fries, and guess what else you're getting, buddy?
the toy.
Buddy, you're getting that toy. And everybody wants them a toy in a Happy Meal, buddy.
Oh yeah,
Everybody wants them a toy.
and
Now, what kind of toy? We're not going to get into it. But everybody wants them a toy. But and that's what it gave us, dude. It gave us a lot more like closer, in-depth look at everything, dude. And I feel like that's really what we needed from like the really seal the Green Goblin like as a
There's
great
the
villain, you
entrance.
know? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, he was always a great villain, but I mean,
mhm,
it's like you were telling me before, like the whole thing with Tom Holland and how like the whole thing about him like becoming like his own type of thing, you know?
mhm.
Like you said, this movie kind of like sealed it for that. So I mean,
Well, yeah, yes. So just like yeah, just to recap, I definitely think that Tom Holland was the uh, for lack of a better term, I feel like he's the baby Spider so far. I feel like, at least to me personally, I felt like he really, I feel like he was carried by a lot of other people in his trilogy, and just this latest movie, um, with everything else going on, especially the way they portrayed, you know, the Goblin being so ruthless and just like a psychopath. I feel like him being able to overcome such a horrendous villain on top of everything else, I think that really cemented his place as like a Spider-Man that should absolutely be feared and like respected at the same time. He's earned his mark.
yeah, dude. But bro, speaking of that, dude. I mean, dude, what's your take on Tom Holland in this movie, bro? I mean,
You know,
He takes us to a roller coaster, dude.
I was never like a big, like a huge fan of his, like just in acting purposes. I feel like he looks very young and he takes on roles maybe fit for like other people of different sizes and statures and reputations. But honestly, I feel like he can pull it off, you know. And coming into the Spider-Man suit, you know, I was very iffy in the beginning because we had seen Spider-Man before, and you know, each time is kind of like a hit or miss. And I was really anxious to see where he went with this, because you know, especially in universes like this, you know, things can turn south really quickly, and you just go downhill. But you know, he managed to keep up, and he managed to make three brilliant movies with a bunch of other great actors and directors and whatnot. And you know, especially like I said in this last movie, you know, he's cemented his place. I feel like he has done his job well and well through.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I was trying to tell you before, dude. Tom Holland's no joke. Is this Spider-Man, bro? I was always a big fan of it.
Mhm.
I was never really a hater. You know? I mean, everybody knew that, dude. I was constantly defending the dude on his
Mhm.
Spider-Man. And then y'all would think I'm crazy, bro. But I'd be like, no, dude. Like, bro, even Stan Lee said this. Like, I'd bring all of that mess up. But, dude, but them bringing the whole scene where Ned and MJ, bro, they're looking for Peter Parker, bro. They're like doing the whole spin thing with Doctor Strange's ring, and then boom, all of a sudden you see Peter Parker in an alleyway. Like, what did you think whenever you seen that?
Well, first of all, you know, just jumping ahead a little bit, y'all were ahead of me in that whole shebang right there, because I was like, what is he doing in an alleyway, and like, why is he wearing that dark suit? Like, that doesn't look like the suit he was on before.
I thought it was the normal Peter. Like, I thought it was Tom Holland's Peter Parker.
And I was like, why is everybody getting so hype? Like, I'm just seeing. And he starts getting closer, and I was like, oh, well, he's not wearing that suit. He's wearing, like, his original red and blue suit. But I was like, wait a minute. That doesn't look like his suit. And the guy coming in looks a lot taller. Which, obviously,
What did it for me was the lenses.
to me, I think it was the combination of the design and, like, the stature. Because Tom Holland being so prevalent right now, you can definitely recognize, you know, his movement and his stature right away. So that was a key thing for me to see a taller being. And like I said, the suit design.
Extrapolate where the kidnappers might have gone.
Yeah, bro.
Our suits on board AI continue the most likely area where the
Me and you was right beside each other, dude. Whenever we found, dude, we seen that it was Andrew Garfield, bro. I believe we scared the whole entire movie theater. So, by the way, like how we reacted, bro. Like me and you was
Mhm.
getting up in the air, dude. You would have thought we done got excited, had a little bit of wet dreams, you know. Like, bro, it was ridiculous, dude. Like, there will never be another movie, I don't feel like, that would ever make me do that same sense of, like, excitement, bro.
Oh, absolutely.
I've ever been like that in a movie. Like, it really has to be something like, dude, I would have to see Venom, dude. Venom's my favorite villain, bro. Or anti-hero, whatever you people want to call him. Like, if he was in the movie, bro, I'd have probably said something.
Well, you see, the thing as like I was saying at a previous time, it kind of upsets me so much because the hype I had for like just that whole scene. First of all, it surpassed Endgame easily, like in the first couple seconds.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like,
Dude, it's like
I think,
Adam said, bro.
yeah.
This movie's definitely breaking records.
And to me, like, it just makes you upset because literally seconds after all of my like adrenaline left my body, I was like, it doesn't matter how long I wait or like what else comes out, like nothing is going to, I'm never going to be able to watch this movie again and have like the same the same hype that I did.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. Because, dude, the thing is, they kept everything a secret so well, bro. They hid everything so well. Like, maybe not the whole, like, oh, Andrew Garfield coming into the whole mix and everything like that, and Spider-Man and all that, which we'll get onto the next one in a little bit, um, but like, bro, they hid everything really well, and played everything off really well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, there's always, you know, the internet saying this and that. Well, this is confirmed, but this is rumors and yada yada. But I feel like all the crucial parts of the movie, the stuff that really mattered, was definitely kept under a tight lid.
Oh my
Which,
God,
I mean, you know, honestly, I feel like you have to have some leaks now and then, you know, especially nowadays. You know, do something, a little sneak peek, so, something to get you hyped for the movie.
the thing is, dude, I watched that there was little to no leaks, bro.
Hmm.
Because, dude, you get that type of excitement, bro. I mean, dude, think about it, dude, because no other, like, big movie like this really is able to keep leaks like that,
Hmm.
you know?
Well, and I think another thing too is, especially being in Marvel of all things. I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's comics, there's movies, there's shows, there's this and that. So like, literally every time you have a movie coming out, there's always like people speculating on what's gonna happen. Especially because
Pigeon
a
alert.
lot of times you only see iconic characters and this and that. So like, it's almost given away like what's gonna happen because we've seen it before.
Yeah.
But for them to be able to keep a lid on something like this, I mean, I think it was just, it was very well done, and there was a lot of surprises.
There was, dude. But, dude, speaking of which, bro, I mean, dude, I mean, it's like I said at the end of my last video, bro. We're not gonna say it one time, dude. We're not gonna say it 2 times, but it is 3 times a charm, and speaking of 3 times a charm, dude, Tobey Maguire, dude, showing up as, you know, I don't know, I forgot who said it in the movie, dude, themselves, looking like he's, I think he's the
Keeping you
pastor,
home, buddy.
showing up looking like he's like the pastor of a church, bro. Like, and then everybody being so, like, loud, you know, just by the fact that he's the only one that doesn't have a web shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude, just seeing Tobey Maguire come back, bro, but in, like, as an older version, bro, and I like how they didn't, like, try to CGI it, dude, and try to make him look like they did with, Doc Ock. I like what they did with Doc Ock because it worked with him, but I feel like it wouldn't have worked the same with Tobey Maguire, bro, if they would have tried to make him look young.
Well, you know, well, okay, I'm gonna backtrack just for a second. I would talk about the CGI on the freaking the arms, right? So I like that they CGI the arms because number one, they had the technology, but number two, because you have such a bigger range of what you can do in these Marvel movies now. Like back then, I mean, they only had specific sets to do this and that, and they had to maximize what they had, and they could, you know, it was a struggle in a way to do it to try to do it with robot arms. But now that we have so much more to work with, and we have so much more technology to work with, it was easy to pair CGI arms with all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But getting back on the subject, absolutely, I loved Tobey Maguire coming back, reprising his role as the original Spider-Man, like the first live-action one. I feel like he did it really well. He was there enough, so you got him, you felt him. You know, you definitely were like, oh my god, I can't believe it's him, he's back. But he wasn't overpowering. Like they didn't, because I mean he could have easily stolen the show and had this like huge like mentor lead, or had this huge like, oh, I'm better than you because I've been here longer. But they didn't do anything like that.
Yeah, most definitely. He stayed which I really liked. I mean, like we said before, I mean, he was he was just a very mature, like he was a mature version, you
Mhm.
know. He came back as like a version of himself, but like if they would have kept the Tobey Maguire series going, like literally you could see him maturing just like the way that he did in the movie.
Mhm.
How like he shows like just him matured, like I said. Um, but the thing was, dude, like, bro, we can't just sit here and not talk about that one scene, bro, where they're all, you know what scene I'm talking about, this, where all three of them are on the Statue of Liberty, and
Oh yeah.
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are going back and forth on a debate. And I'm gonna let you talk about that debate. Because you said it really did, it brought like a whole bunch of memes and everything out, and like,
Well, yeah. So obvious. Yeah.
for the fans.
Well, yeah. I genuinely believe that that whole scene was just for the fans because I mean, if there's one debate, especially like
Explain the scene a little bit, just for people that don't know.
so. Well, yeah. Heavy spoilers. So you'll probably you should already know what I'm about to say if you've seen it. But so basically, it's Tom and Toby and Andrew. They're talking on the scene, but it's mostly Andrew and Tom, and they're just comparing this and that. They're talking about web shooters. They're talking about villains. They're talking about some of their conflicts they're having, and they're kind of comparing them. But the way that a lot of Spider-Man fans will see it is they're trying to like one up each other, but it's really not like that. And
Yeah.
you know and so the whole scene it was really for the fans to base it was just to kind of put all the rumors to rest and try to settle these like heated discussions where people are like, oh well, Tom's better because he has web shooters that he had to make. Oh, but like Toby's better because he's organic, or Toby's had to fight three villains at once, or Tom's had to do this, or Andrew's had to struggle being Peter Parker, or this or that. I feel like the scene kind of had them all, kind of put everything out on the table, and then they all validated each other. They were like, "Oh, well, you know what? That's what Peter Parker's doing. That's awesome, or that's cool." And it kind of had them all basically say to the fans without talking to the fans that they're all valid. They're all great in their own respect.
Yeah, you know what I really liked about it though, bro?
Hmm.
Is the fact that they even highlighted, like, okay, like, and I mean, you can say what you want, but everybody knows this. This is a favorited opinion right here. That everyone says that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is the least favorite out of all of them, and that a lot of people even would say that he sucks and everything. Which I mean, to me, I mean, I wouldn't say that's really fair to him, just because he just went over that script that they wrote for him, you know. Um, but the thing is, like, the thing that I liked about it was they kind of like just stood up for each other. Like they brought all that out
Mhm.
because the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man was like, you're not lame. Because like even Andrew Garfield was like, he was like, dang. He was like, so Tom, he was like, or basically saying to Tom Holland Spider-Man, he was like, so so you went and fought a purple guy in space, and then oh my god, like Toby, like you fought like an alien that like feast on people's brains basically and like consumes people.
Mhm.
Like, oh my god, I've only fought like a guy that is who's like a real life freaking, I don't know.
A rhino.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he's like I fought a freaking rhino and a guy that was like a human electric company, you know?
Mhm.
Like I mean, and he's like, bro, you went to space and you can shoot webs out of your hands organically. They're like, I don't want to know the full details, but like, if it's personal, don't tell me. But
Mhm.
I'm kind of curious. Like, can you shoot them out of anywhere else?
Well, dude, honestly,
I really liked that, dude. I
mhm.
really did. Even though it was like a short little scene, bro, I felt like it was awesome.
Honestly, it's kind of segueing into, because I don't think we talked about this much yet. But Andrew Garfield, I mean, just there's just so many emotions I had with him. I mean, I think we mentioned before, like, I loved Andrew Garfield. I think that his movies were very, very well written, not so much as good executed. But I think that he still definitely cemented his place as a Spider-Man with two movies, more than enough. And I think the best thing about him overall was that, like, he felt like a fanboy in the movie almost.
He did.
Like he was one of them, and yet he was still geeking out, and he's like, oh my god,
The whole
his
entire time, dude. He was like, oh my god, this is so cool.
yeah, and he was like, I
Like,
love
all
you
of us together,
guys.
he was like, yeah, it literally was like, I love you guys. And then they were like, thanks.
And that's awesome, because, like, and we'll take a step back from that, not just him, but Andrew Garfield himself was always a huge Spider-Man fan. And he's even done interviews where he said, when they reached out to him to talk to him about that, like, he was just absolutely, like, blown away, like, because he loved the movies and he loved Spider-Man so much that he basically said that being a part of it was the greatest gift that they could ever give him. And I think that really showed in his character, even though, like, he could also relate to them. I mean, you could see the fanboy coming out of him every other second.
Oh yeah, most definitely, dude. I mean, dude, like you're saying, that's him in real life too, though, bro.
Hmm.
It's not like that was just for the movie. Like, dude, that's how his personality is in real life.
Hmm. But now, speaking of his character, I want to touch on his redemption. I feel like he had in the movie.
Oh yeah.
He first of all, he comes in, and like he's super enthusiastic. I feel like he's very true to his character. I feel like the way he acted was literally spot on to the way his actual Peter Parker would react in a situation like that. And I feel like,
Absolutely.
but see, I think it was very easy for him because, like we were saying, like, he put a lot of himself in the Peter Parker. So
Yeah.
it probably wasn't very hard for him to be able to act genuine with his character because he was already genuine. And I think that his redemption arc was just absolutely beautiful in the movie.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Him going from the sky, dude, going after Zendaya, bro, because he knows that he doesn't want Tom Holland to make the same mistake. So then he takes it upon himself, bro, to save her just because of the fact that he knows how that story ends.
And you know what? I think,
Like that, like,
oh yeah, I think that was a great scene because, you're thinking, okay, well, not Tom, Toby in his first movie, he saved the love of his life and a whole train car full of people in the same scene. But then Andrew Garfield, he only had the one thing, but it was just such a heartbreaking moment where, he lost a woman that he loved. And even, watching him talk about it in the movie, you could see how torn up he was. And so seeing Tom, like, it seemed like Tom was gonna catch her if the Goblin hadn't gotten in the way. But the fact that he did gave Andrew the perfect opportunity, and you could see it in his eyes. Like, it was on instinct that he just went and he got her. And I even
yeah.
yeah, I even saw somebody who made a great comparison. He said that Andrew Garfield didn't save MJ. He saved somebody else's Gwen Stacy. Which I think that just resonated so well because his first thought wasn't, "Oh, I need to save this person just because that's what I do." I feel like his first thought was, "Oh my God, this person that somebody loves is about to be taken away, and I want to help that because I know what that's like."
Yeah. Yep. I definitely see that. I definitely have to put a pin on this real quick. And just keep it rolling, dude. I'll edit all this out.
Mhm.
I gotta go get a phone charger.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you know, but like just because my thing has a timer on it, we're at 45 minutes.
Gotta get to Officer Davis's medal ceremony.
Attention units, 1034. Repeat, assault reported.
Yuri, I found a Fisk construction site. Lots of busy worker bees up to no good.
Try to make some noise. If someone calls in a disturbance, I can send cars.
Noisy? I can do noisy.
Times like this are when you find out who your friends are. Boss has a long memory for that kind of stuff. How long you been with him?
Alrighty, and we are back. Sorry, I had to go get a charger. You there?
Yeah.
Alright.
So just as like a little oh, as I said before, just like a little segue. So like, I just think that Andrew's whole like redemption and his like, you know, second wind basically of him being able to basically get his happy ending in a way was just great for his character, and I think it helped him find peace with his Spider-Man. And you know, speaking, yeah,
It was a great way to end his story, I feel like.
yeah.
Because he was supposed to have that third movie and never got the third movie. So his story was kind of cut short, you know?
Mhm. But speaking of, that was a very emotional, big scene there, because you had the fight going on while they were also trying to like, cure everybody. Which honestly, that seemed conflicting right there, because how are you supposed to fight these people who want to hurt you while also trying to save them? Like, to me, that was a huge, moral dilemma.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know which one said it, dude. I think it might have been Andrew Garfield. He was like, alright, well, all we gotta do is basically try to save these people that are trying to kill us.
Mhm.
And then for me, I was like, dang. I was like, bro, like, honestly, bro, that kind of hits on another level if you think about it, though. Because it's like, dude, honestly, bro, the way that society is now, dude, like, somebody's trying to kill you, dude. I mean, look, dude, you see everything that's going on, like, what is people gonna do? If someone's trying to kill them, bro, they kill the other person first or they die.
Mhm.
You know? It isn't like, okay, let's see what else we can do to stop this situation, you know? It's always, this person is trying to kill me, I'm killing them, you know?
Which honestly, like, it makes sense. Like, it's justified to me. But like, I think that's what just makes it interesting, is that Tom has this whole other, well, Tom and Andrew and I'm assuming Toby as well. Like, they have this whole other outlook. They're like, all right, so here's the plan. We're gonna battle these guys. These guys who are literally trying. Some of them are literally trying to kill us, and we're gonna stop them by saving them. I mean, it's just a whole nother mindset that was so great to watch, and like very very hard too. Like it was very intense in watching it.
Yeah. Just the whole thing, bro, was just a roller coaster, dude. And the thing is, dude, time went by so fast while watching this, bro. It wasn't like, at least for me, dude, it wasn't like, I was just sitting there and I was like, just counting down the minutes, you know?
Mm.
He was like, bro, like, this isn't enough, like, give me more. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and honestly, like just like a quick note on the movie. honestly, I feel like the beginning of the movie kind of it had two different feelings. I feel like there had one feeling where it was like, all right, well here's the next Spider-Man movie, like, you know, it's the end of the trilogy, like it, you know, it kind of has that vibe. But then it also had like a darker undertone vibe in like the darker scenes. And then I feel like they both kind of met in the middle of the movie and like formed into like this one kind of like emotional like heartbreak for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I get what you're saying, dude. But, dude, we got to talk about that final fight. Tobey Maguire and the Green Goblin, bro.
Honestly, I wish there was more.
Not Tobey Maguire, but Tom Holland, bro. And the Green
Oh.
Goblin. I mean, bro. Dude, just imagine that, bro. This guy killed his Aunt May, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like, you know, it was just some random, like, dude, this was literally his aunt, bro. I mean, it's his family, dude, the person that he's been living with that's been taking care of him the whole entire time, you know? And you can see in the movie, like, dude, he's enraged. He's wanting to kill, like, as you can see, he's beating the living crap out of the guy.
Oh, absolutely.
He's wanting to kill him. He even grabbed his lighter and everything and was like, literally about to
Oh yeah, ready to freaking.
stab it right through him. Freaking Tobey Maguire has killed. But, I mean, he didn't end up doing that. Oh, that show ran over.
You know, and honestly, well, we can get to this in a second. I mean, you already know my feelings about like, you know, Aunt May's actual death. But you know, everything that he was going through at the time, I feel like that made a great, you know, opportunity for Andrew, especially Andrew, you know, with everything we were talking about, and Toby to basically give him a little bit of like advice, you know, use their seniority, you know, to their advantage, where they can say like, you know, everybody's different. We know that you're going through a struggling time, but we also went through this, and you know, this is kind of how we dealt with it. And even though, you know, and even Toby was saying like, you know, when my Uncle Ben died, you know, I wanted to find the man responsible, and I wanted to kill him, but he, you know,
Said he got it done. He got
Yeah.
it done. But he felt good.
I just checked.
because even though, you know, he did all that, I mean, it didn't bring Uncle Ben back, and it didn't make him feel any better.
I'll do my part to make it extinct.
Bro, but for upcoming movies, bro, just the way the whole thing ended, bro, when you got the post-credit scene, bro, Eddie Brock, them changed them, you know, like, you know, Tom Holland, you know, he's with Doctor Strange, you know, they were just saying, oh, like, they basically reverse everything, or not reverse everything, but they make everybody think. And then Eddie Brock's there one minute talking to the guy, and then the next minute he's gone. But then something gets left behind. And I mean, kind of like I told you earlier, bro, about the homies like on camera about how now you got Riot, Carnage,
Mhm.
Venom, like all of this is literally like he said, oh, Venom. Well, I don't know if Riot, but I know Carnage was literally Venom's son, basically.
Well, yeah, you know, that is his son.
And I feel like instead of Venom coming to the MCU, like I mean, he's already in the MCU, pretty technically. But I mean, instead of the actual character, like actually being in the movie or whatnot, I feel like it's gonna be another version, not gonna be the Venom that we know, you know?
Well, it's possible. Well, and see, that's, you know, that's something that I had kind of been wondering, you know, about myself, because I'm a big fan of symbiotes, and
Oh yeah, most definitely. Venom's my favorite.
seeing the first one where they had multiple symbiotes and they only really dealt with two of them, it was kind of, it was a good start. And then, you know, seeing Venom 2, I mean, don't get me wrong, like, seeing the whole Venom and Carnage was cool, but I feel like with everything that was going on, I feel like they definitely had some time, and I feel like the resources to maybe bring in, you know, some other symbiotes, or at least introduce them, or have some type of, like, some scene that would set them up for later movies. Because there is a lot more movies that, there were a lot more symbiotes that they could have dealt with, like, especially being with that Carnage was the main villain in that movie, they could have set up for Carnage's son to come in and have, you know, that storyline go on.
Fisk construction sites are there?
Have a son, doesn't he?
Yeah, he had a son.
Them working overtime to bring in money.
Well, now he's gonna
Well,
have a
same
tough
thing
time
happens to
keeping his
somebody
operation running.
I'm not sure how he got there, but I know that it was a really,
Willie, funny story.
it was a really dark storyline.
There were shenanigans of the criminal.
But like the basis was basically like,
Fisk construction is
since
going.
Carnage hated Venom, Carnage's son also hated Venom, but Carnage's son also hated Carnage, and ultimately, Venom and Carnage, I don't remember,
I should make all the guys who've sworn to kill me fight it out.
but I remember that it ended with Venom and Carnage having to team up to basically kill Carnage's son.
Dude, I can't imagine that, bro. Like, actually seeing that like, and even like Sony Marvel.
Hmm.
I can't, dude, I don't know if I'd ever, like, really see that. Them teaming up.
Well, I mean, I think right now it's a little bit iffy, because even with all the technology and stuff going on now, everything's franchised. Everything's like set on a certain path, and they want to do certain characters and build up certain storylines. I don't know that symbiotes are going to be something that they're going to dive into anytime soon.
Like, as of right now, like, I think they're doing really good. Like, I don't think it would fit as of right now.
Hmm.
But dude, if they work their way towards it, just build up, bro. Just build up the whole, like, plot behind that, basically, bro.
Hmm.
Oh my god, bro, dude.
Yeah, that's a high-speed car chase, all right.
You know what I will say? Well, no. But so going back to, like, you know, the whole ending. The ending was kind of good. I'll say this. I think it was a good ending for the Spider-Man. Especially because there was an intense scene with Tobey Maguire where we were like, oh my god, like, he got stabbed, and, you know, obviously my first thought was, oh my god, is this how they're gonna send him off?
I thought he was dead.
Which, and then he made the whole comment about, yeah, I've gotten stabbed before. You know, it made sense. Like, you know, thinking about that, you know, if he had died after that point, I mean, that would have been really stupid, considering, like, you know, he's a Spider-Man. But I think for a split second, I just had that revelation of, like, oh, is that how he goes out, you know? Like, Andrew got his redemption arc. Tom would obviously have whatever, you know, they give him in the end of the movie. And Toby would, you know, just end up passing away or whatnot. Which, it would obviously be sad, but I feel like if he did, I could find peace with that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been a great way to, like, end him off, dude, if this Green Goblin, like, actually, it would have been kind of ironic, since, you know, like, within the actual, like, whenever he actually fought the Green Goblin, he impaled him with his glider and everything.
Mhm.
This time, the Green Goblin did him that way, but not with the glider, he did it with the sword or dagger or whatever.
Mhm. But now, see, I thought it was weird how they ended the movie, because they basically had, you know, Peter had to make the ultimate sacrifice, as I will call it, because he was going a step further. He didn't say, I want the whole world to forget, you know, that he's Peter Parker as Spider-Man. He went a step further and said that he wanted everybody to forget he was Peter Parker, which I guess if they gave an explanation, I guess I just didn't see it or whatnot. But I didn't understand why he was going that far. But obviously he was trying to do what was right, and he was trying to do what was going to keep the people that he loved safe. And so, he had to make the ultimate sacrifice where everybody he knew and loved and cared about just gone, basically. Like, they didn't remember him. Which, I commend him for doing it, but I don't feel like that left on a good note. And this will lead into, like, the other ending, where he goes and sees MJ and Ned and interacts with at least one of them. I feel like it doesn't really leave much room for, like, more to come. Because I feel like at this point, he's basically have two options. He's either got to go in... Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like, oh, this could like, dude, we were debating like what could happen like after the movie. Like, bro, the possibilities are endless, bro. It's like, bro, okay, like within the next movie, is he gonna like try to find MJ again? Because I mean, the way the movie ended, it was like he was okay with them not knowing, you know? He wasn't like, trying to like push it or anything, you know? It's like he's just happy, that they're there, that they're okay. That they got into college and everything like he wanted them to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and here's my thing, right? I feel like the way that they left it, there's only two good options, right? There's either he leaves everybody at peace, goes in as a lone wolf. He talked about moving away in the movie to some other place, started becoming a new Spider-Man, whatnot. And so,
It was Brooklyn.
yeah, so he could always do that.
Boston. It was Boston.
So he could always do that, which I wouldn't be too pleased with it, but I mean, if that's the direction they go in, that's the direction they go in. Or he could do basically meet everybody again, start the whole process over. But see, the problem I have with that is that it just wouldn't feel right. Yeah, it would feel, yeah. And it's going to be a whole different it's going to be a whole different set of consequence, like, the concepts, Like, yeah, Peter and MJ are going to be together, but it's not going to be the same relationship. They're not going to have the same chemistry because they met under different circumstances in different parts of their life. And it's just going to feel...
And it's like they had this experience that they went through together,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you're not just going to do that experience back. It's not going to be the same experience.
And you know what I compared it to is if you follow any like DC stuff, Crisis on Infinite Earths, the way that they wrapped it up was very poorly written. I mean, it was not the same ending that you got in the comics, which is a better ending. They basically, it was very weird, and they basically ended the multiverse by combining it into like one universe, and so everything was screwed up on one Earth. And I feel like that's kind of what it would be like if, Peter started this new life. It'd be basically the same life, but totally different circumstances.
Yeah. I definitely see what you're saying, dude. But, yeah, dude, I mean, the movie, dude, I feel like it left on a huge cliffhanger. The possibilities are absolutely endless, dude, for Marvel, bro. You know how it is with Marvel, dude. There's no telling. There's only speculations, That's literally the only thing you can do is just listen to rumors and hear people piecing puzzles together. Because that's basically, what they're known for as of, like, now. It's just, like, building a big puzzle for, really, the fans to try to piece together, pick and piece together. And, I mean, they give us little hints and stuff and little spoilers here and there and all this mess and Easter eggs within other movies that they release to what the future holds. But nobody really knows until it actually happens. And, I while ago, bro. Like way before, you know. Like, I wish they would have started with the earlier movies, bro. Just think about how, like, the superhero movies within the last, I want to say, 10 years. Superhero movies within the last 10 years has definitely gained a whole lot of traction since they started doing it. Before then, with actors and actresses used to hate and try to avoid, like they even said this, we try to avoid doing any superhero movies just because of the fact that the technology was so poor, everything was cheaply made, they didn't know how to exactly approach different things. So like, you wouldn't get much revenue from superhero movies.
Well, and that's another thing is that.
The technology increased, like everybody wants to be a superhero in the cinematic universe.
Well, and see, and that's honestly probably the hardest thing is because even though you know you had early shows, live action and animated shows in the 80s and even 70s, 80s and 90s, you know, it was still mainly in the comics, and like it was everything was very new, and you know revenue streams were very limited. So even if you did do really well on a show or movie or whatnot, you probably wouldn't be getting paid very much. And like even now, you know, you see Endgame and Infinity War, and now this new movie. I mean, they're breaking box office records. But if you look at the actual sales, Marvel and DC still make yearly. They still make quadruple what they do in comics than they do in movies and TV shows. Which just goes to show you that, like, they're just, it's all around still a great business. Like, everything is still, even though you have movie flops here and there, I mean, there is no, like, slowing down. There's really no, like, big setbacks. I mean, especially with something like, Marvel and DC and whatnot, where, like, you have multiverses and universes and all these different rules for, like, time and whatnot. I mean, if something goes wrong, you can always, say that, it exists in a different universe, or, it was just a dream, or, this or that,
Yep. I mean, that's the thing with how they got everything set up, dude. Like, it's so, like, this is what I say, dude. They're so well set up, bro. Is that, honestly, bro, they can literally say anything and literally have the evidence to back it up. They can literally find the evidence to back it up with the movie. That's why I say, dude, it's unpredictable, bro. It can go literally anywhere. But alright, dude. I think that's gonna wrap it up. We're gonna do a quick outro real quick. So I'm gonna do my outro real quick, and then I guess you can do your outro, however you wanna do it. But and guys, that's gonna be a wrap for us. It was a really great video that we got going on here. If you made it to the end, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you. It really helps out. We're trying to get that average view duration up, because that stuff really matters to me. It really counts, okay? So we're really trying to get that up. But guys, if y'all want to continue seeing me and the gaming hub over here, if y'all want to continue seeing us doing this, just leave a comment down below. Let me know if you like stuff like this. Leave a like. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. For some more. Guys, if you aren't already, as always, please hit that subscribe button. Every subscriber counts. Every view counts. So, I mean, if you want to share this to your mom, to your mom's mom, which would be your grandma, dad, to your cousin, to your cousin's cousin, to your cousin's girlfriend that you forgot may be your sister. But either way Alabama goes, okay? Either way. And if you're from Alabama, I'm not trying to knock, Virginia has their time. But we're not gonna get into that. Forget about it. But anyway, Point Blank Crew. I'm not gonna say it one time. Point Blank Crew. I'm not gonna say it 2 times, because you know what they say? 3 times a charm. It's like I already said in this video. 3 times a charm. Point Blank Crew, you already
Yeah, and honestly, that about wraps it up for today's video. I think this was a very healthy discussion. I think we covered a lot of topics, and honestly, overall, I think I can come out of it with a healthier understanding of the movie and what came out of it. But yeah, that about wraps it up for today. If y'all like this video and want to see more content, just hit the like button. If you have any feedback you'd love to give, leave it in the comments. And yeah, stay gaming.
Alrighty. Alright, I'm gonna stop recording, stop broadcasting.